We're here in Alexandria. We are here with Erin and a very small audience of her twin sister, Kelly. And we are so excited to share with you, again, her journey, all the lessons learned. We look forward to a day where we can do these in person with mimosas and brunch, because that was the original intent. And yet with COVID, we decided not to do that. So I'm going to re-angle here. So give me 1 second. All right, let's see if we're good to go. Give me 1 sec. See all of your faces. Real audience. Okay. All right. So
we put a song. Put your hands up in the air, cause Erin is here.
All right, somebody mute Mitch.
You missed the dance party in the beginning, Mitch. All right. So now for the real value of the day, right? So for those of you who, most people know now, we started this Meet the Mega series, and it's by peer nomination. So if you do have nominations for our next series, please let your team leader or myself know. And today I am just so excited to have Erin share her story. I know that a lot of people know of Erin and some of the numbers behind what you see that we put out there, but I don't know how many people really know Erin.
And it says I'm a little standoffish at the beginning. I don't know.
Yeah, so Erin's been maybe referred to as standoffish over the years, so we're gonna crack her today and get her to tell us all kinds of stuff that we don't know. Erin and I have worked really closely together in the 5 years that I've been part of Metro Center, right?
Yep.
So Erin's been on the ALC every single year. You're an investor in the Market Center.
Yep.
You're an investor in title and soon to be insurance.
Yep.
She's built a mega team. Obviously, we know that. She served as a productivity coach.
Did for 4 years. Yep.
In this Alexandria Market Center for 4 years while she did all this. So it's really exciting, and we're just super thrilled to jump in. So a couple quick highlights is I know you guys read the flyer, but she did start her real estate career 7 years ago.
8 now, 2012, right? What year is it? We're about to be 2021.
Yeah. So 8 years ago. She was a dual career agent, which we're going to touch on. And this year, her and her team are on track to serve 175 plus, I know she'll give us the exact number later, families, and that equates to over $80 million in real estate. So Erin, welcome.
Hi. How's it going?
Yeah.
We're seen you in person a while.
I know. It's fun to be in person, isn't it? Safely.
Yes.
All right. So Erin, tell us a little bit about you. Like, what should we know about you before we dive into this interview?
Well, I mean, part of the reason we titled it kind of entrepreneurial to purposeful is like, I'm just a regular person. I don't have any big business background at all. I actually have an art degree. And I've been able to create this life and this business with very little background in business. I don't have a doctorate degree, and, didn't have to spend 8 years in school to, make a good living. So real estate is a family business for me, actually. My grandmother was a real estate agent in Los Angeles. My father was a real estate agent. My mother is still a real estate agent in Los Angeles. That doesn't necessarily mean I knew the business growing up or was trained in it. I really wasn't. But I was trained with an entrepreneurial mindset and an investment mindset. And, honestly, my parents didn't have it always, smooth. Like, sometimes we had money and sometimes we didn't. In real estate, I'm sure some people experience that. And my dad was actually a dual career agent his entire life, really. He was in the motion picture industry. And so sometimes he had a movie and sometimes he didn't. And sometimes he had a real estate closing and sometimes he didn't. And so we rode the roller coaster of that self-employed, life, right? So they didn't really have the systems and models that we have now to figure out how to run the business correctly. So it's interesting to now know what I know now and then take what I learned growing up and kind of create this world that we have now.
That's a question for later, by the way. Awesome. So it's always part of your family, but you also saw the roller coaster that came with the lifestyle of
Definitely
owning a business.
Yep. So neither one of my parents had a 9-to-5 job or a job where they got paid every Friday. It was all commission based and all contract based. So it was an interesting life, but it was a good one. I mean, no complaints about my childhood, but it certainly trained me to be better with money and things like that.
I know there's a lot of our people out there tuning in that can understand the real estate roller coaster that sometimes we're on.
Yep.
So speaking of childhood, tell us about what you
Yeah, so I would say my mom describes me as pretty stubborn.
That's shocking.
You know, I think that's a good trait, maybe. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I was always the kid asking questions like why. I was the why kid. Like, why, Mom? Why? Why? Explain this to me. You know, what's the reasoning behind everything? I wanted to understand how everything operated, how everything worked, and just know the full big picture of everything. And actually, I never missed a day of school in my life.
Ever.
Guys,
that's crazy, right? And not one day.
Here's the thing though, like a couple years after I graduated from high school, I'm reading these articles about these kids getting like cars for never missing a day of school. I'm like, I think I got like a paper certificate, right? Like, where's my car? Where's my like scholarship? I didn't get any of that, but yeah, I never missed a day of school, went every single day.
So lesson already probably number 3. Show up every single day for you and your business. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, this is like bad to say in COVID world, but I remember feeling sick and still going to school and just like pretending I was okay. No, Mom, I'm fine, Mom, everything's fine. I remember one morning, I had theater, we'll get into that. I had theater first period, it started at 7 a.m. And about 7:10, my mom got a phone call from my theater teacher, like panicked, where's Erin? And my mom went into my room and I was still asleep. I got there by 7:30, I swear to God. So I wasn't technically absent, but it was kind of like a panic moment. Like, Erin's always at school, what happened? So that was who I was, you know?
Yes, consistency matters,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But
anything else about you as a kid?
I have a twin, she's right here.
You guys can't see Kelly, but
hello.
It's really weird when they're both on a Zoom call together and you're like, whoa, what's going on?
Yeah. I think having a twin like made me very competitive as well. And you know, I actually kind of think it's odd that people don't have twins. I'm very lucky to have a built-in best friend and somebody that I can be competitive with mostly in a good way. But yeah, so I think it's odd that that most people don't have a twin. But after high school, my sister joined the military. She was in the Army, and I went to art school, like I said. So after the 4 years that she was in the Army and I was in school, we're like, wait a minute, like we just spent our whole life together. Why are we in different places? So she was actually stationed in Hawaii when we were 21, and I moved out there for a couple of years. You know, the same kind of work ethic worked out there. So we actually were cocktail waitresses at a bar in Hawaii. I mean, that was fun. We were 21. And there was no sections in this bar. We were able to serve like any of the customers. And we would just hustle all night. The bar was open until 4 a.m. We would work all night. I mean, I don't even want to know how many steps we walked with our, we didn't have step trackers at the time, but we would hustle all night. And at the end of the night, the other girls would ask us like, how much did you make? And we'd be like, oh, like, $150. But really we have $750 in our pocket or something like that, because they were out there flirting with their boyfriends or, hanging out with their friends. And we were running circles around them, serving drinks. And they'd be like, oh, well, we only made 120. And we'd just be like, zip it, not tell them anything about what we really, so if you guys are listening now, it's true, we made a lot more money. But we just both of us saw the opportunity and really took advantage of it. Like, we saw that people would call in sick and be like, I'll take your shift. And that's just kind of how it was.
So when she's sharing that story, it reminds me, if any of you have read the book, The Road Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham, he summarizes each chapter and he says, on a bumper sticker, right? And so when I hear Erin, like, that's another nugget there, right? On a bumper sticker, when an opportunity with no limits presents itself to you, be the one to take advantage of that and hustle and take every opportunity that comes your way, because it'll pay off.
Really great to build relationships.
Yeah, Kelly just mentioned also a very relational industry, right? And build relationships.
Yeah, we had customers that when they walked in the bar, they sought us out. They looked for us to serve them their drinks because they knew we were going to do a good job. So the customer service part of that was huge. So we did that for a couple of years. I kind of referred myself as retired in Hawaii for a little while. No, it was a good time, but I ended up moving here to Virginia, and I actually got back to what I was doing before that, which was working in live theater. So with live theater, like it's the same thing. Like the audience shows up whether or not we're prepared or not. They're going to be there and they're going to be watching the show. So we better be done and ready, right? So I got that work ethic. I would work 12, 16 hours a day. And it was just what you did. So it wasn't, I never really had a 9-to-5 job either. And it wasn't something that I just, went home. I just got the job done. So we'll talk about that later when I transitioned to my full-time after I was dual career, because there was a kind of a moment that I realized like not everyone has the same work ethic as I did. But my dad told me when I was 14, I went to movie sets with him and it was fun, but it was boring. And he said, you should do live theater. And then he told me I was never going to make any money. And I wish he would have repeated that twice because, I was then 28 years old working in theater, which was great, but making $40,000 a year and I had nowhere to go from there. So being in a position where there was no growth, like you mentioned, there was unlimited potential, there really wasn't that in the position I was in at that point. So
tell us, so how did you transition into real estate?
Yeah, so I actually bought my own condo in 2009. It was the bottom of the market. Everybody else, I think there was a mindset you couldn't really buy a house or you didn't want to. And I was making $40,000 a year. I bought my first condo in Northern Virginia, which is hard to do with the sales prices and everything. And I think I made about 12 offers and was beat out by cash investors on 11 of them. I remember my agent no longer needs and said, go see it. It was late at night. It had just come back on the market. It was a short sale. And I remember going over there by myself with a flashlight. There was no power on. And she's like, do you want to make an offer? I said, well, yeah, it's small, it's gross, but I'll take it. And I just kind of took the opportunity. I remember my boyfriend at the time, my ex-husband now, said, you're going to buy this? Like, what's wrong with you? And I just knew I could make it better.
All right, if you guys could try to stay on mute, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, so I bought my own place and, I had some help remodeling it. And then I lived there for a couple years. But I realized I was trying to help my friends do the same thing. I'm like, this is possible, you guys. Like, you don't make a lot of money either, but you can, buy a place. Look on Zillow, look on this, look on that. And I was kind of coordinating other people's purchases anyway. So in 2012, or actually in 2011, I was kind of poking around online looking for maybe a part-time job, because I had some downtime in my other career. And I responded to a Craigslist ad. I don't know if that's safe anymore, but I responded to a Craigslist ad, somebody looking for an assistant. And come to find out very shortly after that, he really just needed a driver because he had gotten a DUI. And I drove this guy around to showings to all his real estate work. And I realized that he's not doing anything I can't do. So a couple weeks later, he ended up not paying me and it was like the whole thing. So I was like, you know what, I'm doing this. I'm writing the contracts. He told me how to write a contract. I was like,
totally legal.
I was doing the agent role and really, again, I was just supposed to be his driver, but he totally lied. Anyway, so I said, never mind about this. I'm going to go start my classes. So I did, and I actually got them done in about a week. I just said, I'm going to do this. And I stayed up all night and finished all the classes, tested, got my license. Yeah.
I want to stop for a second. And this isn't part of what we kind of outlined, but it's not bad. It's actually a really good lesson for those of you who follow the career visioning hiring process, because when you have someone walk you through their life story, you hear about examples that Erin is sharing and you understand who that person really is and the track record that shows up in their life, whether it's being a cocktail waitress in Hawaii or taking this part-time job and turning it into a career opportunity. So this is part of the value of in one of our major systems. So as you were saying, it just made me think of that. All right, so you finished the classes in a week, and you were like, I'm doing this. I can do this. This guy can do this. I can do this. So how did you pick your first brokerage?
So I took the test, I passed, I think it was like 2 PM. I got home and I was Googling on my phone and I was like, real estate offices near me. That's about as much research as I did. And I just started calling around until somebody answered the phone. And the broker at the Avery Hess office in Springfield, Patty Mancini, who just passed away, unfortunately, she actually answered the phone and she said, yeah, come in right now. And I was ready to go. She was there to have me. So I went and I signed up. And, you know, at the time, there was no fees. I could print whatever I wanted. Like, you know, I didn't know if I was going to sell anything. So I was making not very much money. I didn't want to pay anything if I wasn't going to sell a house, right? So it was a 70-30 split. I said, this is great. Like, I don't have to pay anything. Great. Like, that was just the biggest thing for me. And somebody was there, you know, but I should have really taken note because she was the only person at the office at the time. There was nobody else there. And it didn't really occur to me that that might be a problem later on. So I got there and just realized that there's nobody else in this office. What am I doing here? Who am I going to learn from? What am I going to do? But yeah, once I got there, they would actually send out rental leads via email and they would say, first person to respond gets the rental lead. I think I got about 95% of them. Maybe when I was asleep or something, I wasn't getting them, but I took every single rental lead I could and just started working. I wasn't really worried about the paycheck. Again, I didn't have to pay anything in the brokerage. Like, I was just like, okay, if I make money, I make money. If I don't, I don't. And I started converting these rental leads to buyers. Or I put them in rentals, you know, and honestly, they actually took 50% of the rental amount at that brokerage. Oh, wow. So I was making like nothing, $100 here and there. But I would just do it and show houses. And I learned to show houses. I learned where the lock boxes were. I learned, you know, how to communicate with the clients. And I probably did 20 to 30 rentals that summer. Yeah.
So tell us about your first buyer client.
Okay.
Everyone remembers their first client, right? I think everyone on here, you have a story about that first experience. So tell us about that for you.
So I remember this clear as day. Actually, I literally just showed these people another house like 2 weeks ago. So I hosted my first open house. Didn't really know what I was doing. I think I shadowed one and then hosted one. And in high school, I got pretty good grades, but I actually got my only C- in Spanish. So I said, I'm not taking Spanish again. And I took sign language at the local community college. So that was my foreign language credit to get into college and, you know, get that squared away for high school. So I kind of knew sign language. I think I took like sign language 1 and 2. But I was at this open house. I was like 29. You know, I hadn't taken sign language in 12 years. But this deaf couple walked in and I could communicate with them. And they were like, you're going to help us buy a house. And I was like, okay, let's do it. So I think the next day I showed them 3 houses and they said, we want to buy this one. And I said, okay, follow me to my office. I don't know what else to tell you right now. So I did what I always did. And I called my dad while they're following me. So I'm driving, I call my dad, they're behind me in their car. And I'm like, Dad, this is the situation. He goes, Erin, hang up and call your broker. And I said, yes, that's a great idea. Because, you know, as much as he could help me, he's in California, does not know our contract. So I did. I called my broker. We got to the office. I put them up in a conference room. I was in like the, you know, bullpen area with a computer. I didn't even have a laptop at the time. So I was on like a shared computer. She walked me through, put this in this blank, put this here, da, da, da. And you know, I'm so glad I didn't have to read that contract to them because I would have been stumbling over my words. I would have been like shaking and like, because I was scared, right? Like, I didn't know, am I going to screw this up for these people? I think it was a $500,000 house. And I just sat the contract in front of them. They read through it and signed it. And yeah, I still to this day don't know how I made it through that transaction, but I was definitely in a contracts class the next day. So
yeah, you're like, what?
Never even opened the contract.
I now know what I don't know,
exactly.
Right? I think we've all had that experience.
Yep.
All right. So what ultimately brought you to Keller Williams?
So like I mentioned at that other brokerage, there was nobody in the office.
Mhm.
Like pretty much everybody that was there, either was half retired or like just didn't really care if they sold a house or not. And I realized, I think month 2, I was top salesperson in the brokerage, and I was like, or the office, not the brokerage, but the office, and I was like, wait a minute, I just sold like 2 houses. Like I don't really understand
Yeah, how's that work?
how that works. And so I just started looking around. I was like, okay, but I'm comfortable. Like it was fine. I had one-on-one broker support. It was fine. But a Keller Williams agent actually put me on a green sheet of one of the rental transactions.
So a green sheet, most of you listening know a green sheet because you've been with us for a while, but those of you who don't, it was the old cover sheet of how you get paid, basically, which is now done through command. But
yeah, so you could put an agent on there for your team leader to call to say this person could be a great fit for KW. So the funny part is I never met that agent, ever. We'd done a rental transaction and that was it. And then I got a call from a team leader, and my dad always told me, like, take the meeting, always say yes. And so he's like, what do you have to lose? So I did. I went and met with the team leader. It was a pretty eye-opening experience for me because not doing any research prior to joining my first brokerage, I didn't really realize what the potential of real estate was. Like I knew that sometimes growing up we had money and sometimes we didn't, but I didn't really realize that like you could make a good living at this and this was something powerful. So I didn't initially join KW, but when I was at the office, the team leader was introducing me to people in the office, and she's like, you know, this is so-and-so, and she sold 2.5 million this month, and here's her assistant. And I remember Jennifer Mack and Danae Judd were there, and
Danae, if you're on, you had quite the impact. You probably don't even know.
Yeah. So I remember they were both there, and they both had assistants, and I was like, I'm sorry, they sold how much? And they have an assistant, and I was like, well, how much do they pay these people? And I didn't really even realize like I could have an assistant. Nobody at the brokerage I had an assistant, like at all, or a team. Like I didn't even know there was a thing. So I kind of took that whole thing like early on of like, there's leverage. I don't have to do this on myself. And it really stuck with me. So I didn't initially join at that time. It took me about 8 months before I actually joined. I was still dual career. I didn't really see the urgency. I was fine. I was doing well. I was selling 1 to 2 houses a month, and that was more money.
You were okay with that.
That was more money than I ever had before, right?
Right.
I think I doubled my salary in my theater job my first full year in real estate. So
as a dual career agent.
Yeah. Okay. So I made 40 at my regular job. I made 80 in real estate.
Okay.
So I didn't really see a need to move, right? I was doing just fine. So I was then called by the same team leader, and she went back into production. And she said, I'm taking over this team in South Arlington, which is where my other job was. She was like, and I think it's a perfect fit for you. You know the area, come be my buyer's agent. And I was like, wait, I have to give you half my money? Or like, wait, like it didn't really, I was like, wait, and then there's a cap, and then there's money. And I was doing the math, and I was like, this doesn't make any sense. And she was like, no, just come with me. Like we can build something great. And I thought about it. It was like literally this time in 2013, I believe. And I said, okay, I'm just going to do it because I believed in her, and I believed in the person, and I believed in what, like, just the passion.
Opportunity was.
Yeah, the opportunity and the passion she had. So I did it, and I got there, and it turned out that she was taking over somebody else's team, and that team leader hired an agent the same day. So I was supposed to be the only buyer's agent. I was supposed to get all these leads. It was going to be great. And I show up, and there's somebody else there. And I was like, okay. And then about a week later, the 2 team leads had a falling out. So the girl that hired me was gone.
Right.
Yeah. So now I'm new to KW. I'm on a team with a team leader that never hired me. She never even met me. So it was weird. It was super weird. But I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. I had essentially put in my notice of my other job, and I was going to go all in. And I was like, I don't have a choice, like, right? So I just put my head down, and
Who was your office team leader at the time?
Shane McCuller.
Shane McCuller.
Yes.
Okay.
I
So
briefly talked to him on the phone when he onboarded me. That was about it. So, well, so I put my head down. It was spring market. It was like Zillow leads, open house opportunities, which I knew I was already good at, internet leads. That's basically what we did. And I sold about 8 million in buyer sales. I wasn't allowed to list at all in buyer sales. And in June of that year, so that was about 6 months, about 8 million. Yeah, I was tired.
That was year 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, spring of 2014.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So in June, I really kind of realized that the team leader and I just didn't get along. I mean, we knew that the whole time, but like it really became an issue. And I wanted to list a family member's house. I couldn't list. It was like this whole thing. I remember, and we just kind of had a really big falling out. And I walked into Shane's office at our old space, and I think I started crying. I don't really remember. And he was like, yeah, I probably should have told you that wasn't a good fit, but I didn't really know you. And I was like, what? But he just said to me, like, here's an office, here's some keys, like, go on your own. Who cares what they think about you? Go sell real estate. And I did. So I went on my own.
Just go make it happen.
Yep, went on my own. And been, here at KW Metro Center since. So.
And when was that again?
So that was like summer 2014.
Okay, summer 2014.
Yep.
All right. So I know that you are crazy busy, especially right now navigating this market, and your team is growing and thriving. So why were you willing to give us 2 hours of your time? Well, more with the prep, but your time today in order to share your story?
So, I mean, real estate's really changed my life. Like, clearly I brought my family into it. It's allowed me to do things that like I've never been able to do, right? And I think, when my dad was ill and passed away, like my mom was able to, I'm gonna cry, sorry. My mom was able to take 2 years off and be with him and take care of him. So like I was able to help them do that.
So you funded the ability for your mom to take 2 years to be with your dad as he was sick.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I think my sister cried too. No, so like just
everyone's crying over here now.
Yeah, sorry. We should have we're intense. So yeah, I just being able to do those things and do what I've done with real estate, like, and we'll get into my team later, but like that's something that I want for everyone around me, right? So like I want people to be able to have that life. And it's not about money too, but it's time. It's like, what we can do for other people. And
money is good for the money is good for the good that money.
Yeah, Kelly's saying money is good for the money, or money is good for the good money can do, right? Yep. And so I remember, was it Pat Mancuso? I can't remember. I think it was Pat Mancuso talking to an agent in Gold one time. And he said, and the agent said, well, I have enough money, or I have enough business. And he goes, well, you have enough business, but what about more business and more money for the people around you? What can you do for those people? So we've kind of internalized that, both Kelly and I, and that's something that we're passionate about, making sure that we can give to other people. So
yeah, so that's one example of how building this real estate career and being part of Keller Williams has definitely changed your life, right?
Yes.
And so the other one that I reminded Erin of this is that it was always really inspiring to me. Every year around this time, pre-COVID, she would take all of her extended family on an annual vacation. And that was a big goal of hers. We talk about experiences worth giving. So
when we could cruise.
Every year I asked to be invited, and I never get my invitation.
Next year.
So
next time we can cruise.
I don't know about that.
You need your vaccine.
So another example of, what you can do with that money. It's not just about, us, it's about what we can do and what experiences we can give.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see. So ultimately, you agreeing to do this today was about showing people that there's a path and how to take advantage of the unlimited opportunity, right?
Right.
Anything else specifically?
I mean, I just think that this business, everyone is good at something different, right? So there's so many different backgrounds. There's so many different, paths that people take. It's very rare that it is a first career, right? And so you can be good at almost anything and be good at real estate. You can anyone's, I'm not the best person that runs comps. I'm just not. And somebody else is really good at that. we all have different skill sets, but we can all be super successful at the same time and have our niche or have our, part of the world. So
speaking of different skill sets, so talk to us about your team structure right now. What does that look like?
So currently we have 11 agents, including myself. We have 2 full-time admin, and then we have a part-time runner, which is very helpful. If you don't have a runner, please go get a runner. Especially in our area, we have traffic everywhere. You'll waste half your day just trying to get to a listing.
I know you feel that out there, people.
So we started 2020 with 6 agents. We added our 7th in the spring, and then we just hired 4 more as I transitioned out of the productivity coaching role. We just hired 4 like in the last month or 2. So we done about, I think we're at 176 sales for this year. We did a bulk of that with the 7 agents that we have, my core 7.
So about 176 units, 80 plus volume.
Yep,
with
about
the core 7.
Yep.
And you just are growing.
Yep.
more.
So we added 4 agents in the last month or 2, and so 2021, we'll see where that takes us.
Okay, great. So what have you done purposefully? So we titled this Entrepreneurial to Purposeful, which is actually one of our 6 personal perspectives, which Susie's teaching about next week. And that is basically the concept that your natural talent and ability will only take you so far in any given goal in your life, fitness, relationships, business, whatever it is. And that until you actually stop and put in models, systems, follow others, seek out development, you won't actually break through to the next level of success. So as you've broken through level by level over the years, what have you done purposefully with Keller Williams to grow yourself or your business?
Great question. So I think the biggest thing for me is I'm constantly taking training from, that first contracts class I jumped into after that experience through now, like people will see it. I'm taking classes from people even our market center, and I'm trying to be always learning based, right? Which is another perspective.
It's another personal perspective.
And like, I didn't make anything up that I do. Like, I just regurgitate what I hear and what I say. So people sometimes will come up to me and say like, well, how'd you learn? Or how do you know that? Or where did you make that up? Or how did you figure that out? And I'm like, I just regurgitate what people say. I'm just really just implementing the training that I hear or that I watch or, used to go see in person. And I think that, somebody like Ben Kinney, who's actually one of our top 3 agents in the company right now and who's built a huge company, something that I took a class that he had taken that he had taught more than 5 years ago. And something really important that he talked about is hiring leverage and hiring people that are better at things than you are. So like in the theater company I worked at here locally, sometimes I didn't feel like the people that were being hired were the best in their role or whatever. So for me, it's like always finding talent that fills that role I don't want to be better at a spreadsheet than my assistant is, right? Like that's not my role. If I need a spreadsheet, I call my assistant.
You don't want to be better.
No, yeah. Like I don't want to do that. That's not my skill set. That's not where I'm best. And so I want to hire someone that has that skill if I don't. And I want to hire people that are better at that than I'll ever be. And that's the same thing with like training an assistant. I don't want to train my assistant because I am not good at that role. So why would somebody that's bad at being an assistant train an assistant? It doesn't make any sense. So sending them to training, taking systems classes, including them in the bigger classes, family reunion or masterminds. I remember Sky, who's been with me for 4 years now, is amazing. She's our transaction coordinator. She actually moved to Alabama. We kept her on. She walked up to me one day and said, so I know you're hiring Liz. When do you think like you'll be getting rid of me? And I was like, no. You're going virtual. Like we're totally keeping you. You're amazing. But I remember signing her up for masterminds and she looks at her ticket and I think it was $700 or something. And she looks at me and she goes, is this for the one day? And I said, yeah. And she goes, oh. And she was very nervous about it. And but then she took it very seriously too. And she got so much amazing stuff out of that, masterminding with it was National Harbor over here, masterminding with other admins and really, but spending the money to get these people, the training that you're exposed to, I think is really important.
So bumper sticker, invest in your people, right?
Yeah. And then I think, I'm 8 times bold. So bold,
8 times.
bold is pretty powerful. I would say that had a major impact in my life. Yeah.
So real quick, because I know we've got some bold fans and some others maybe not so much. Why would you take bold 8 times?
Oh, I get that question a lot, don't we?
Yep.
I questioned that too. The first time I took bold, I truly didn't take it. I mean, I did. I was there. I showed up, but it was that spring market when I was working with all those buyers on the team, and my team leader told me I had to take it. And so I was told I needed to be there, and I showed up, and I didn't really pay much attention. I was on my phone. I was writing contracts. I was doing everything I needed to do because it was 8 hours of your life. Like I'm busy. Like I can't do this. So I didn't really go all in. And I remember that next year thinking of some of the principles that I did kind of take in, and then I took it again, and I really understood it. I understood that it was a mindset training and not a how to sell real estate class. And I think a lot of us will reflect on some of the training we have and realize that Keller Williams doesn't do a lot of training at a high level on how to buy and sell houses. It's more about running a business, and it's about your mindset and things like that. So I realized that the mindset's the most important part of it, and that's really what the class is about. So
yeah. I had shared with Erin my similar experience. The first time I took bold, I was 3 days into Keller Williams and 3 days into being with the company and a brand new team leader. And I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
Where am I? What is happening?
Right.
But every subsequent time, it was much more powerful when all
Yes.
the pieces came together.
Well, and you're in a different place in your life every time you take it, right? Like you're not the same
Absolutely.
person every year, or at least
well, your business is at a different place too.
Exactly.
Or the market center, yeah.
Yeah.
So anything else purposefully when we talked about E2P?
Yeah. Do you remember like 4 years ago, you gave me a call and you said, Erin, I need your help. I need you to be our productivity coach.
Yes.
And I said, what's that?
And I said, I don't know, but we need to have one.
And I remember going home and talking to my ex-husband at the time. I was my husband at the time. And I was like, hey, they want me to do this thing. She said, it's going to be like 15 hours a week. And he looks at me and he's like, you don't have 15 hours a week. Like you don't have enough time. And I said, I don't care. I'll figure it out. And Kate's like, listen, if you don't do this, people are going to leave the market center. They're asking for you. I just kind of naturally helped people anyway. I was one of the people that people came to for questions anyway. So she was like, you have to do this. And so I did. I did. And I didn't have the time. I was, a solo agent at the time, selling a lot of real estate. I was the top solo agent in the market center. And, but I figured it out. Yeah.
Yes, you did. All right. So now we talked about PC coach, successful individual agent. Like, how did you know it was time to start the team?
Yeah. So I think, there comes a time where you can't service everyone at the same level. You get busy enough that you're dropping the ball somewhere, you are. And, I always, even for my coach, always just jobs, like I wanted to do the best I possibly could. So it got to the point where I wasn't servicing my clients. I wasn't available for showings, or I wasn't available. I was very buyer heavy. I was. And the models say you need to have 50% listings, and I wasn't there. But I knew I needed help. I hired a part-time admin. Actually, Josh Jukes and I split one. Just hired someone that was like in my Facebook world that was like, hey, I just got my real estate license. And I was like, great, come with me. Like, let's do this. And I hired a part-time admin. I realized I just needed help. I just started the PC role. I actually met Lindsay, who's still on my team today. And I said, you come with me, same thing. I didn't really, it's kind of how I started my first brokerage, right? Or like joined my first brokerage, like, let's just do it. So the funny part is I ended up having to fire my first admin because she wanted to be an agent. And I didn't really realize that an admin and an agent are two different people, right? So I needed somebody who wanted to be an admin and not want to be an agent. And now I realize that there are processes for this hiring process. There's career visioning and our KPA, which I think the KPA is super valuable to me at this point. I don't hire without a KPA at all. And had I known that then, I may not have had to, let people go and stuff like that. But I did KPA Lindsay, who's on my team, and we're very similar, which is interesting, but it works well.
So talk to us real quick about Lindsay's mom being in real estate.
Oh yeah, so when she first joined, actually her mom was here visiting, but her mom she's also from LA, which is weird. Her mom is in real estate in LA, which is also weird. Our parents have done deals together actually. So her grandmother's in LA as well and is a mega agent. Her mom and her grandmother both mega agents in KW in Los Angeles. But I was teaching an Ignite class, and her mom actually sat in the class with her, and I met Lindsay and was like, I need to hire you, you're talent. I just knew right away she was talent. And I asked her if she would want to join a team. I think it was like a late night email, like 11 p.m. I was like, hey, you want to join my team? And she actually responded with, yeah. And I was like, whoa, like her mom let her join a team? Like, I didn't really realize that I thought she was going to say, no, you don't need a team. You can do this by yourself. And so, yeah, it worked out really well.
Well, what was funny about that story was that just like Erin didn't need to join a team and yet did because of the person and the opportunity, Lindsay certainly didn't need to join a team and yet followed in that same thought process of, if I align with this person, can I do more?
Right.
And what can we build?
Right.
And so I just thought that was an interesting parallel there.
Yep.
All right. So tell us a little bit about your goal setting.
Goal setting's been a little interesting. So about 2018, we had a goal of 100 families and we served 99.
99. I was like, you couldn't have bought a house or something like yourself?
I know.
We talked about it.
We looked for an investment property late in the game, but it was like, around this time when I realized that we weren't going to hit it. And, that time, like, I was making money, but maybe not enough to like go buy something in cash right then and there. And, but I scoured the MLS. I called people. I needed to make
parking spots.
I tried to find a parking spot. That would have been perfect, right? But you can't find them. Owning a unit anyway. So yeah, we sold 99 houses. Kind of disappointing, but I think the year prior, Lindsay and I had done like maybe 60, so I knew it was a good year. And then we did in 2019, we had a goal of 150, and we did 134.
Mm-hmm.
So we missed it again. This year we had a goal of 200 and we're at 176. So unfortunately we're going to I don't think we can do 25 in the next 2 weeks, but
where would you have been without those stretch goals?
Yeah,
that's exactly right. Yeah. So talk to us about why are you okay with that? Like, what does that ultimately mean for you and the team?
Well, I think, in Keller Williams, setting big goals is important. And I think if I just said, okay, yeah, we could do 150 this year, we would have breezed by it. And would we still be hustling? Would we, towards the end of the year, would they have taken their foot off the gas? Would I have? Probably, and I think, although we won't hit the goal, I think it's important. And another thing is I always set goals with units. Like we rarely set GCI or volume goals. And because I know if we do the units, everything else will follow. We will make money and we will, hit our volume. So, yeah.
Yeah, units. We always talk about that. If you set the unit goal, everything else will show up.
Right.
So we talked about a little bit about setting these big goals, and every year you and the team very purposefully set stretch goals for the next year so that you surround yourself with systems, models, people that are going to help you get there.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about some of that accountability that you've put into your life.
Yeah. So, one of the reasons we do hit our goals is because I know I have Josh Jukes on my heels. He's out there somewhere.
Hi, Josh.
So if I let my foot off the gas, he's gonna... I met Josh about 5 years ago. He was new to the office. I'd been around about 2 years, and a couple of us got together and started a mastermind group. And so there was, I want to say, about 10 of us at the beginning, and we'd meet weekly in a conference room and talk about, what are you doing in your business? What CRM are you using? All this kind of stuff. And then, I think a month or two into it, it was just Josh and I. And we'd be like,
everyone else bailed?
Everyone else bailed. Oh, I got to
Not a good trait of an accountability partner.
Well, I'm trying to think, honestly, anyway, I won't talk about there. But so
We're not here anymore, is what you're
Yeah.
trying to say.
exactly. So yeah, it just became Josh and I meeting weekly, and we stuck to it, and we met every single week. We helped each other. He was building his team at the same time, and we kind of just mastermind together every single week. We still meet weekly. I'll see you Thursday at 10. We still meet weekly, and even if we can't make that exact time or something, we always replace it later in the week. And we're very purposeful about it, and just having someone that can hold me accountable, I think is really important. And honestly, I've had a lot of coaches as well, and nobody can hold me accountable like my accountability partner. So
Wow.
Yeah.
That says a lot. That's right. Josh is flexing over there. It's a special gift to hold Erin accountable.
Hold on. Rumor has it he's actually going to beat me in units this year, but I'm going to be like Trump and demand a recount. Like, I am not angry until the numbers are out there, okay? And Jessica, if I have to slip you a couple hundreds to fix the numbers, just let me know.
He's also willing to pay Jessica off. So I got to talk to Josh a little bit because I know the power of the relationship that you guys have as accountability, and what then has also extended to your teams, right?
Yes.
Your teams provide each other with accountability. And Josh also started as a dual career agent and has transitioned and built this incredible business in partnership with, Waz family and all the team members. And so what Josh said about Erin, let me just make sure I don't mess it up. So I'm going to read it. He said, Erin, when talent meets hustle, you have an explosion of productivity and achievement, which I loved. I was like, wow, that's like an original Josh Dukes quote right there. When talent meets hustle, you have an explosion of productivity and achievement. So I love that.
It's her in a nutshell.
Good job, Josh.
Thanks, Josh.
All right, so Erin, real quickly about this next section, like what has been the biggest benefit to being part of KW? I know we've talked a lot about that, so we might have hit some of it, but.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we're all given this red book when we join, right? The Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. And, I didn't crack it open at the beginning. I'm not a reader. Like, I didn't open it. I think, honestly, the first time
Everyone reads that book when we give it to them. What are you talking about?
I know. Well, but here's the thing, like, I didn't know what the value was, right? Like, I didn't know. And I was like, I don't need to read a book. Like, I know everything. No, I'm just kidding. And I messed it up, right? I didn't hire correctly. I didn't know what the team levels were. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. So I messed it up. And, then I went back and Kelly and I, when she moved here, we drove from Florida to here, and we put it on audiobook, and we listened to it the whole way. So it was like a 17-hour drive of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. And then we're like, oh, okay. Like, we understand. That was in what, 2017?
Mm-hmm.
So I had already started
now.
I had already started building my team by the time we really started looking at it seriously as a system and a model. And, had to redo some things.
Sure.
But
most people do it entrepreneurially.
that's what I
Once
did.
or twice or 3 times, or are still doing it. Yes, some of you. And yet once you see, maybe it's a little easier.
Yep. So there is truly a model and a system for everything, right? Like, you can go to KW Connect and download pretty much anything and repurpose it.
You were like sending me things when I was in Florida. I'm like, where are you getting these things?
Yeah.
Right.
So my sister was actually running her own brokerage in Florida, and she's like, I'm working on like a buyer packet. And I was just like, here, take this. And she's like, what? Where did you get this? Like, you made this? I'm like, no, I didn't make it. Somebody else's. And she's like, she literally started implementing the systems of Keller Williams, but running her own brokerage. And of course I tried to get her to Keller Williams before that, but she was like, where does all this information come from? Like, it's like a whole thing. Like, it's everywhere. What do you mean? Like,
Yeah.
What do you mean you don't have it or you don't have access to it? So she was like taking my buyer packets, making them theirs. And I didn't write them. We
Right.
still use a buyer packet today. I didn't make up, right?
Right.
So that's the biggest thing is, like Ben Kinney says, like, R&D, most people think that's research and development, but it's really rip off and duplicate, right? So
We say that a lot.
don't reinvent the wheel. Don't make your PowerPoint from scratch. Don't do any of that. Repurpose something else. And that's the culture of our company that we're willing to share. And I've really embraced that as well. Like, here, have my team agreement, and I got a call from an agent in Arlington last week. Can I look at your team agreement? Of course, here, send it over. Like, same thing was being a productivity coach, like, here, take my systems, take what I have. So
yeah, I know you very openly have shared a lot of your stuff that a lot of us on this call have benefited from in different ways as templates or,
Yep.
you know, because you got them from somewhere else.
Exactly. Like, a lot of people say, like, how do you know this stuff? But I didn't make any of it up.
So at this point, I mean, and I actually get this question quite a bit, and the team leaders do, like, why would someone like Erin continue to stay associated with Keller Williams when she could go open her own brokerage at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing for me is there's always going to be someone better and doing more and doing, you know, better things than I am, whether it's like at our office or, you know, Keller Williams as a whole. And so I can constantly learn from everyone around me, and the mindset of like there's enough business out there for everyone is really important to me. The collaborative nature. I hear, you know, agents coming from other brokerages all the time saying, oh, well, agents are saying this is proprietary, I'm not going to share that with you, this is, you know, my system. And we're just not like that. And especially in our offices here at Metro Center, like I just feel like we all have that collaborative mindset. So I do remember my very first office Christmas party. I was like convinced myself to stay for 5 minutes because I didn't know anybody in the office. And I was like, I'm just going to stay for 5 minutes. And then like I ended up staying, I think, the whole time, and people just kind of embraced me. And so if you're that agent that's afraid to like talk to people in the office and stuff, just hang out. We will embrace you.
Or show up on Zoom, definitely plug in. So we talk a lot about these moments, like a defining moment. Like we talk about that in bold a lot. And some people that's personal, some people it's professional. Do you feel like there was a defining moment for you that kind of put you on this trajectory?
Yeah, I mean, I think coming off of that team early on when someone else was really trying to limit my thinking or, you know, hey, this is the way we always do it, so don't do it any different. I wanted to think outside the box. I wanted to, you know, I remember there was like a home inspection issue and she was like, just cancel the contract. And I'm like, but that's not really a solution. Like the buyers want to buy the house. Like I want to come up with a solution. So it was always solution based. And so when I that just wasn't working out, when I walked into Shane's office and, you know, he just said, don't worry what other people think about you. Don't worry about it. And I realized like I had to do this for myself, and I had to just, you know, create my own world where I wanted the people around me. Right. So that's what I've done with my team now. I want people that I want to be around in my world. And so, yeah, Shane he literally handed me keys to an office back in the old space and said, here, just go sell real estate. And that's what I've done.
Awesome. So what do you wish you knew today, or what do you wish today that you knew 6 years ago?
Well, I mean, probably I should have joined KW from the start, right? I could have had faster, bigger thinking. And I should have read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent from the start.
What else?
But I mean, I think the other part of it is there isn't really true real estate emergencies. Like, I mean, yes, maybe your house could be on fire or something, but there's really not. One of the things that my team and I do every year during our business planning is we read each other's KPAs.
And for those of you, I saw a question pop up in the chat. The KPA is the Keller Personality Assessment. So it's something that every single person on this call that's part of our organization can do that assessment and see those results. And then it's also something that the teams use to hire. Well, that we all use to hire, the market centers, individual agents, and teams.
Right. Yep. So every year we read each other's KPAs so that we can help like work together better and understand each other's personalities. And I remember this year, I read mine out loud, and it refers to me as very emotional.
Okay, we call Erin passionate. Okay,
right,
passionate. Yeah.
Well, you've known me for 5 years, right? So
yes.
When you first met me,
very passionate.
I was very passionate, very emotional, very, you know, kind of wore my heart on my sleeve. And when I read that, what? What, Josh Diggs?
I said, no, you do not wear your heart in your sleeve. Erin.
Okay. So, so for the people who've known me for a long time, they've, I think, watched me grow. At least that's my hope. And when I read that this year at my team business planning, they were like, that's not you. Like your KPA is wrong. And I'm like, no, it is me. I've just learned how to overcome that and become more calm and cool and collected. And I think that that's really helped me growing my team and working with clients as well, like not being overly emotional with clients or with the team, and kind of being the steadfast leader that I am. So
love it. So there were two key transition points in your business. One was when you went from like I to we, right? From an individual to a team.
Yeah.
And one is when you went from being buyer heavy to listing focused. And I specifically remember that multiple coaching conversations that we had about you realizing like the only way I'm going to get leverage is to focus more on listings. But as someone who has built their business on rentals and buyers, how do I transition to listings? And I think this really resonates with a lot of our audience today.
Yeah.
So I'd love for you to talk about both of those transition points.
Yeah, so one of the really big things for me about my team is that it is always we. I try to stay away from I. Even when like early on we had assistants posting things on social media and like take out all the I. I remember editing posts. They would go up and I'd see them and I'd edit the I to we. Because it's really important. It's kind of weird because I might be doing a buyer consult and say we, but it's always we. It's really important to me that my team feels like we're a family and that they're just as important as I am or anybody else on the team. And so, you know, with growing the team and being very buyer heavy early on, you know, Gary Keller draws the triangle: listings, leverage, leads, right? And I'm realizing, yeah, like we need listings. And there's a couple of teams in the area that do like really big marketing and have a lot of signs in the ground and they're listing heavy, but you wouldn't even know that we actually do the same amount of units as them. But you hear their name because they have signs in the ground, right? So
they have a storefront.
Exactly. Yeah. So that became purposeful, and you know, we're not quite to 50% listings, but I am as a team lead, which is important. When I was 29 and getting my real estate license and then, you know, kind of 30 working with buyers, I naturally worked with people around me that were buying houses, right? And so that's who I service. I service the business, and buyers, you know, they're kind of easier to get, if you will, right? They're not necessarily paying you and they're not doing those things. But I started realizing that the language that I use was really important. So if I'm asking, whether it's social media or in friends, like, who do you know that needs to buy a house? I need to shift that to who do you know that needs to sell their house, right? Do you have parents? Do you have coworkers? Like, who needs to sell their house? And I remember early on, one of my clients said, oh, do you list houses too? And I was like, yeah, but it's me, it's on me, right? I need to educate the people around me, or my lead generation has to be focused towards listings. And if you guys, you know, take any Keller Williams training at this point, you realize that you have the listings, the buyers are going to come. So that's really what we try to do, is just lead generate towards listings. And, you know, I made a conscious choice against the model, you know, that my team can list and buy at the same time, because my experience on the team, and I think it's important with a relationship with the client, but I want the whole team focused on getting signs in the ground so we can grow. All of us can grow at the same time, right? We've gotten plenty of buyer leads off of our listings this year. And for everyone on the team, that everybody's lead generating for listings at the same time. So
it's a great point.
Yeah.
And really timely with the data that we just shared earlier in the call today.
Well, and sorry, one other story. So when I first joined my prior brokerage, I remember the broker saying to me, do you want to have a referral-based business or a transactional-based business? And I said, I don't know, I just want to sell houses. Like, what do you mean? And she's like, well, you need a database. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. I don't know what you're talking about, and I don't really care. I didn't really know how to build a spreadsheet, right? So, when I came to KW, you know, I started Bold, and I had to make all these calls, and I'm like, who am I going to call? I hadn't built a database. I hadn't put anybody in any kind of system. And there's a script in Bold that's the I'm sorry script. And I realized as I'm learning this script, I haven't talked to any of my buyers that closed in the last 3 years. I didn't reach out to anybody. Well, they bought their house. What do they need me for? Right?
Right.
Like, it didn't, I was like, they're done with me. Like, that's it. And so in that bowl, I think it might've been the second bowl I took, but I can't remember. I made all of my calls around these I'm sorry scripts to all the buyers that I had closed. And I said, you know, hey, Kate, I'm so sorry I haven't called you. And
It's okay.
no, but that's really what happened. And they first of all, they were okay with it.
Sure.
And second of all, they were just happy that I did call. And I was surprised that they wanted to talk to me, because in my head, they wanted to tell me about their refrigerator that didn't work or whatever. And I didn't, you know, it was
Wanna deal
hard.
with that?
Exactly.
Right.
But I realized that like they do want to hear from me. They do care about me. You build a friendship with them. And now I'm actually, you know, helping them buy and sell now. So a lot of my business is buying and selling and helping people manage like, and what's really awesome about that is I'm able to see them walk away with checks for more money than they've made in their jobs in that time.
So it's never too late.
Yeah.
And it all compounds, right? So go back through. That's a great exercise, painful and yet great to do.
Yep.
Awesome.
You gotta swallow your pride and make the call.
Yep. Swallow. Kelly says, swallow your pride and make the call.
Yep.
Bumper sticker.
If you make the call, the answer could be yes. If you do not make the call, the answer is always no.
Boom. All right. So just for like time tracking, we've got a couple more topics to hit on. It is 12:13. We had budgeted this from 11 to 1, so we'll finish the topics and then we will do Q&A. Kelly, if you could help us monitor the chat. We're hoping and trusting you guys are getting a lot out of this. All right, so Erin, like how did you get the right players in place on your team? Like how do you go about attracting talent?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll be honest, I feel pretty lucky that I was productivity coach, that I got to see a lot of people and how they worked. I think
it was a good move.
It was a good move. It was a good move. It was tiring, but it was a good move. No, I had a great time, and I pulled Josh Dukes into it with me and said, "You gotta help me." So we had a good run. But you know, I got to watch people and how they started their business, and you know, I tried to see if people would do a transaction before I would pull them in, just to kind of see how they would work and how they operate, right? So I got a bird's eye view into a lot of different people, which helped me be able to spot talent really fast, I think. It's like people come up to me and they're like, hey, do you have a spot on your team? And I'm like, I don't have spots on my team. I just hire people that I want to be around and that I see, you know, talent, right? And I think that's pretty much how I've continued to hire with the systems and models of career visioning and KPA included. But it's, you know, the people on the team are people that I genuinely want to be around and genuinely want to help be successful.
Yeah, you have an amazing group. Amazing group.
I love all of you. You guys are all amazing. You're like real estate. That's my family too. So I care about all of them.
Family.
Yes.
So what do you do to create a positive culture on your team? Because you're really running like a really big business within our Metro Center business, right? So our culture is not necessarily, it's part of your culture, but you have your own too.
Yeah, I mean, I think we take the collaborative nature, like we are all willing to help each other at all times. You know, this year's been really difficult with COVID, right? I'm struggling with that. And I'm very open with my team about it too. Like, hey, like, you know, I wish we could all be together, or we, you know, could do happy hours like we used to. We used to go to lunch every Tuesday after lead gen. You know, we used to do this kind of stuff together, and we, you know, we're all struggling with it this year. I think, you know, but we have to realize that like everyone's going through that, and everybody's, you know, kind of behind the eight ball with that. So we try to be as collaborative as possible. We have like a Zoom on Mondays. We do a script and role play hour. We Zoom about 3 times a week together as a team. Some people, you know, are going to go on appointments together and stuff like that. But for the most part, I haven't been in the same room as my team for months. And so it's kind of painful because we all really like that energy. Like when you walk into the office and everybody's together, there's a buzz, and we're missing that. But you know, we're getting through it the best we can. So, you know, but I also super collaborative with them. So I'm asking their input. You know, when we do hire someone else, we try to ask for everybody's input on that person. So I'm not going to hire somebody that somebody has an issue with, or that someone doesn't see the same thing I see in them.
one of the things that you shared with me that really stuck out is that you tend to attract and hire agents that don't need a team.
Yeah.
And yet really crave that environment of accountability and collaboration.
Yeah, and that's something actually I struggled with early on. So everyone on my team could do it by themselves, 100%. Like, no question. They're great, fantastic agents. And, you know, I'm thankful that they choose to run their business with me. And early on, I had a problem holding them accountable because in my head, they're going to quit if I'm tough on them. In my head, if I'm but if I hold them accountable, they're going to get pissed off at me and go somewhere else. And, you know, I was kind of afraid of people leaving, right? And then I realized kind of recently, actually, if I don't hold them accountable, they will leave. And that, you know, they're not going to make money and they're not going to hit their goals. And that's what's going to make them leave. So I've really shifted my focus to making sure that I'm holding them accountable every week and every day so that they can hit their income goals.
Well, and that lesson is really twofold, right? So for those of us on the call who aren't leading a team or don't have any desire or intention to, I think the question is, are we showing up are we showing up being open to accountability in general? Because I don't know about you guys, but if accountability wasn't needed, everyone would be, you know, at their perfect fitness goals, at their perfect diet plan, at their perfect business milestone, right? But oftentimes those things are achieved with accountability in play. So I ask you to question that. And what accountability do you need in your world in 2021 to make sure that you hit your goals?
Yeah. And, you know, honestly, you know, kind of, there's a whole section of like, you know, how could I have done better? What could we have done, right?
That's the next question.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm kind of skipping ahead because I'm passionate about this. So we talk about
what did you mess up?
No,
we all want to know.
We talk about the word systems, right? And in your head, you build this up to be like, oh, I have to have this like 180-page manual. And we have to do all of this the right way from the beginning. And if I don't have the system in place, I can't do the job. And I always tell people when I coach that, like, you don't need your business cards to be here to go sell a house. Like, you don't give me an excuse that like you haven't done this yet or you haven't done that. Just go out and sell real estate. And, you know, I think there's just this misconception that you need this massive system in place to do things. And like, people look at big teams and they go, well, they must have all their stuff together, right? And it wasn't until I would say this year that we truly have actual systems in place. Mm-hmm. It was hiring our second full-time admin that really did that for us, because our first, poor Sky, I don't know how she did 134 transactions by herself last year as our TC, our director of operations, our listing coordinator.
Yeah, that's talent.
Yes,
for sure.
She's amazing. So yeah, like even an email that you send a client when they go under contract is a system. Like, if you're repeating that system over and over again, that is your system. Write it down, save it somewhere. And we have a lot of those, and we've compiled those into a bigger, grander system this year. But those little things are your systems. And so thinking early on, like, I don't have a system, I don't have this in place. I did, I just didn't write it down, or I didn't. If you walked around with me for a full day, you'd hear me say the same thing over and over again.
It's a system.
It's a system.
I was talking to Katie W last week, and she said, I'm so tired of writing the same thing to all these clients. So she's like, I just took a couple hours and knocked out a system for all of it. I was like, perfect.
Yep.
So what did you have to balance when you were building the team?
Well, I mean, I think I had a tough time letting go of clients, right? Like, so no one's going to do it like I did or whatever. But now probably only like 30 to 40% of what I do is actually working with clients. The rest is working with my team, with the agents and things like that. And with the PC role, so I became a coach, a team lead, you know, a listing agent, a buyer's agent. I still work rentals, which is crazy. I still do. You know, letting go of some of these things that I didn't need to do myself, that was definitely something I had to balance and shift along the way. And then, you know, now the balance is more like, how do I take my skill set and give my team an opportunity to live a bigger life?
Awesome. Love it. So I know there was a period of time where you probably would say that you didn't have great work-life balance.
Right.
And that has changed, and that's been a focus
Yes.
to improve that area of your life.
Yes.
So talk to us a little bit about how you navigated that.
Well, you know, I think that you can look at people that are doing well and hitting the numbers boards every month and think, oh, their life's perfect, right? Or like they've got it all. They've got everything that they want or have, or they've got all this money. But to be honest, like I was in a marriage I wasn't happy in. Like I married somebody I shouldn't have married, I guess. And I put my head down and I kind of ignored it, I'll be honest. And I sold a bunch of real estate, and I kind of woke up one day and was like, what am I doing? And I realized I was working a lot, 12 hours at least a day. My sister's ex-husband says, I only worked half a day, 12 hours. We talk about that a lot.
Who needs to sleep?
Right. So, you know, Josh will remember this too. Like we would come home from these family reunion conferences, we'd be on the plane and I'd be like, I gotta get divorced. Like, I can't do this. And I wasn't with somebody who had the same growth minded, you know, personality that I needed. And I then just didn't care about my personal life and didn't really care. So I ended up getting divorced, and this is blessing now, right? I actually met Dan, who's my boyfriend now, who's amazing and is like at my level and pushes me. And, you know, he's always like, what are your goals? What are you doing? And it's just amazing to be with somebody that is like that. But what I was going to say about that is if you have a spouse or a partner that is not in real estate, you need to share your goals with them. You need to share some of this higher level training with them. Take them to Bold, take them to family reunion, or like you can do it virtually together or whatever, because they have to be exposed to this. If they are not going to grow with you.
Or they'll just think you're crazy.
They're going to think you're brainwashed. No, no, but they're going to stay stagnant, and you're going to grow, and you're going to outgrow them. And you just have conversations with the people in your life that are not in real estate, because they are not afforded the same training opportunities we are. And you just need to involve them in your planning. And to be honest, like we're gone on the weekends, we're gone in the evenings, and they need to understand why you're doing it. If they don't understand that your goals are for, or your big why is for your family or for them or whatever, they're just going to resent you for being gone. But if they truly are a big part of your business and understand what you're doing and why, I think that can lead to a better relationship.
I was watching the Miracle Morning documentary this weekend that was released, and it was Hal Elrod, the author, shared that for a long time, he said, I walked around telling people that my big why was my family, but when I looked at my schedule, it actually didn't correlate. And it was very eye-opening for him to understand that unless he purposefully chose a different path. And like what you're saying is like, for a long time, my business was really successful.
Yeah.
But that was the only thing
exactly
in my life that was going the way
exactly
that I wanted. Whereas now you've made conscious decisions, choices, actions, and back that up so that you have more balance and you're actually living a life that you want to be living while you have a business.
I mean, at this point, you know, in March, I remember walking into your office going, we're all gonna be screwed in a couple days, like this COVID thing, and you're like, what?
Erin was way ahead of COVID. I'm like, it's not that big of a deal.
And I'm like, no, Kate, this is a real thing.
And then I'm like, oh my God, maybe she's right. Yeah.
So I started working from home, and I actually live with my twin sister now. Oh, we need to tell that story too, the chain story about that. So I live with my twin sister about 3.5 years ago, almost 4 years ago now. Shane, our OP, walked up to me in the hallway and said, can I clone you? And I looked at him and I said, yes.
Actually, you can.
And he was like, what? And I said, Shane, I have a twin sister. And he goes, you do? And I go, yep. And he jokingly says, she's hired. And I literally, Kate was our team leader at the time. I walked into Kate's office and I said, Kate, do you think you would actually hire my sister? And she was like, oh, I don't see why not. And then I called Kelly and I said, send me your resume.
I said, I'm not looking for a job.
And she said, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm selling real estate here in Florida. And I said, nope, send me your resume. And I did. And I forwarded on to Kate. Kate forwarded on to Shane. He wasn't even actually thinking of the team leader role in Arlington at the time. But I was like, no, Kelly's a team leader. She had corporate management experience. She had an MBA and then real estate experience. I'm like, she could do like
perfect.
It was a perfect fit. And so I said, Kelly, you're moving to Virginia? No. She flew up here, interviewed. It was actually a 4-month process. It was not she's my sister. She got the job. She got the job on her own. She moved up here. We actually bought a huge house together. So I live with Kelly and her 2 teenage daughters. So speaking of work-life balance, they're homeschooled now, right? Not homeschooled, but like virtual school. So guess who's home with them? Me and actually my boyfriend Dan.
Kelly's at work.
Kelly's at work every day. So I am now we call me their other mom. My mom said once, your mother or your mom's. So I'm basically the mom during the day, and then Kelly comes home and is the mom in the evening. So
Perfect.
A lot more work-life balance than I ever had before.
Some by choice and some by
Yeah.
all right. So this is kind of the last segment. So what's next for you? And what would be final advice?
Well, I got to go to a listing appointment. So.
No, not yet.
Oh, what's
You have some questions. What's next?
That's really what's next.
What's next in life? Not today.
I struggle with this. I'm not sure. I mean, I have a couple investment properties. I want to keep buying investment properties, get into Airbnb or something. Everyone else wants to do that right now too. So I have to find something off market, go lead generate for my own properties.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to keep just making sure that my team is being as efficient as possible and they're hitting their goals. I've hit goals of my own in the last couple of years, and I want to make sure my people are doing that too. So change more lives.
You also said you want to buy a little cabin in the woods somewhere, but so does everyone else. And
Yes.
They're fitting words all over the place.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
All right, so parting words of advice, some bumper sticker statements, if you would, and then we're going to open it up to questions.
I think one of my biggest pieces of advice is just help as many people as you can, and the paychecks will come. So don't treat somebody differently because they're a renter or buyer listing or there's a different price point. Just help them, and the paychecks will come. I think the R&D is the most important thing. Rip off and duplicate, right? Someone else has probably done it better than you'll ever create. So just do what they did and do it. And I think with like our, current pandemic, like just be there for people, right? Like, even though
You're doing something personal, you need to get time. So this is the one I'm gonna get.
someone else did over
There
there.
you go.
Like if people, have COVID, do they need groceries? Like be there for people, right? Do everything that you can to help everyone in your life, and it's all going to come back tenfold to you. And I think the other thing is just be yourself, right? So I remember my sister, I was leaving for a listing appointment one morning, and it was a $1 million listing appointment. And she said, Erin, you got to wear a blazer. And I said, what? Like, my blouse is fine. What's wrong with this? And she's like, no, put on the jacket. And she pulled one of the jackets out of her closet, and I put it on. And I went to the appointment, and I showed up, and the sellers were in pajamas. And I was uncomfortable for an hour and a half.
You're like, I'm gonna take this jacket off now.
Yeah, like I was completely overdressed, right? But I was uncomfortable, and I didn't get the listing because I wasn't myself. And it's okay. It's okay, Kelly. There was others listings. And all right, Kate, I did not share this with you prior. I just threw
Great.
Kate under the bus just a little bit.
Go
So
ahead.
early on, Kate was our team leader, and I remember a conversation in her office, and she said, Erin, I think you should try wearing your hair down.
I remember.
And like maybe you could put on some makeup and just look a little bit more professional. And I said, okay, yeah, probably not. And that was it.
Like,
That was the
like,
last.
I spilled my coffee everywhere. So it's just combobulated now.
But that was the last conversation we had about that, because it was
Yeah, I didn't bring it up again.
no, she didn't bring it up again, and she was honestly just trying to help me. But what I learned from that is you just got to be yourself, and be as comfortable as you possibly can, and you're gonna do well. Like if you try to be someone you're not, it's like the people that like, should I wear a jacket or a suit or should I wear jeans? Like wear what you're gonna wear and be who you are, and people will hire you because of that.
That's a great point.
Yep.
I've got coffee everywhere.
For that.
All right.
Like, what did I
So with that, we're going to open it up to questions. So Kelly, would you share with us some questions?
Yeah, so a couple so far. So where do you get your leads?
Okay, so that's, if I had my spreadsheet in front of me, it's really easy, but I would say about 50% of our leads are Sphere, social media, like people we know, that kind of stuff. We do spend on Zillow. We have a couple other like internet lead sources as well, just some marketing money that it's tough on those. We end up interviewing against, you know, multiple agents and stuff. So, but we do get some of those, or, you know, hopefully a lot of those. A couple lender partners as well. Yeah, so internet leads and Sphere are our biggest sources.
Well,
So another one was where we get your listings, but that's kind
So
of the
most
same.
of the listings are actually from clients that we sold before. So a lot of my listings are repeat clients. We kind of track that separately in our tracker. So repeat clients are core for us, but pre-COVID, we did a lot of events. And all of our lead generation was for events.
how many events would you do a year?
At least 3, if not 4. We do like a summer barbecue at my house. We probably get like over 100 people to come there. We do photos with Santa this time of year. We do a fall carnival type thing. So 3 really. And then our lead generation. Here's the thing about events though. It's not about who shows up.
Right.
It's about the lead generation before and after. So, hey, come visit and hang out with us. And then, hey, we missed you, the conversation. So I actually would prefer less people show up. It's cheaper for us. No, I'm just kidding. But it doesn't matter how many people show up. So like if you're going to do an event and you're a single agent and you have 5 people show up, that's awesome. But call the 50 that didn't show up and make it a purposeful conversation with them.
We're starting to see people get real creative with COVID-friendly events like mixology, cocktail things that can be done virtually, drive-in movie showings, drop-bys, things like that.
We did Halloween.
Yeah, we did a Halloween costume contest, which got a lot of engagement on Facebook, and we're doing a ugly sweater competition now.
Awesome. Love it.
Am I allowed to talk without talking about getting in trouble?
That depends.
Type
What
it in
is
Type it in the chat. All right. So
You had talked real quick about your investment properties, which I think was a really important one to understand. And we did go to some seminar at the Masonic Temple or whatever there. They talked about we have clients that we buy portfolios for, but we don't buy our own. And that is, you know, one of the things when you look at your profit share or passive income, you should say part of it to develop your plan to own investment properties as your future. And so where did you learn that, I guess, and how are you using that to build your portfolio later for retirement?
So I used to say I never sold a property because I would just literally move to the next property and rent out the one prior, which I know you did a lot as well.
Okay.
When my sister was in Florida, she literally called me and said, you have to buy this house. You just sign here. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I hadn't even started real estate yet. And it was a house, it was a foreclosure store property, $51,000 in Florida when the market crashed. And I never saw it. And Kelly said, just buy it.
Okay.
And I did. And I think I showed up for closing and I was like, okay, I bought this house, whatever. And I rented it out. I think I saw it maybe twice. I ended up selling it to the tenant that lived there for $160,000, I think.
Wow.
Right before a big hurricane last year.
Yeah.
So they
Great
got
investment.
But, you know, I just take risks, right? Like I just say yes to every opportunity. I went to a listing appointment last year and the guy said, I just want an investor to buy my house. And I gave him 4 options. I said, okay, so here's your 4 options. I'm listing the house next door and we're going to have multiple offers. We can, you know, we put about 30,000 into it. We do help people renovate their houses and then, you know, we kind of take charge for them and renovate, do our thing, make it the way it looks. And then they get a lot more money for it, which they're usually happy about. So the neighbor, went to his house and met him outside. I was standing in the driveway. He was getting ready to walk his dogs, and I purposely just kind of stalled before I got in my car. And then he was out of his house. I said, "Hey, I'm Erin. I'm listing your neighbor's house. Just wanted to introduce myself. You know, here's my card. The house is vacant. Like, if you see anything, let me know." But it was really just I wanted to talk to him because he, you know, was home during the day, and this was pre-COVID. But I wanted to know what he knew about the neighborhood, or if I wanted to get in conversation with him. And he goes, "Well, yeah, actually, I want to sell my house. I want to sell it to investors." So I said, "Okay, well," and I set the appointment to go over there. And I said, "Okay, so we have 4 options. First option is we sell to an investor, fine, off market, whatever. I have some investors or whatever. Second option is we take everyone that doesn't get this house, we bring them over here, we try to get you an offer out of that. Third option is we list it as is in the MLS, we don't do any work to it, and see what we get. Fourth option is, you know, I work with you on some upfront cash, we renovate the place, and we get top dollar for it." And he said, "I'll just take option number 1. And I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, I'm going to go do the open house at the house next door, and, you know, then I'll follow up with you." And he comes over about 10 minutes. Oh, sorry, I skipped a part. I said, "Well, if you're going to sell to an investor, I'll buy it." And he kind of cocked his head and was like, "Okay." So 10 minutes later, he walked over to the house next door and said, "Were you serious? Will you buy my house?" And I said, "Well, if the price that you're saying that you want for it, yeah, I'll buy it." And I tried to talk him out of it probably 3 or 4 times throughout the weekend, because I ended up with like 14 offers on that house next door. It was crazy. And he still sold me the house, and I still have it, and he's actually still living there.
Oh, wow.
Paying rent.
Interesting.
Yep.
So always look for opportunities. Another great resource around that is the MREI book about how to build for long-term holds or flips. But yeah,
Yep.
Good question, Mitch. What else do we got?
So Janine Garcia says, well, she sees you walking around our neighborhood.
Yes.
We live nearby. And then also she said, "How specifically do you hold your team accountable?"
Okay, so this is something I am trying to get better at. I'm intending to get better at, and I've been purposeful about trying to do that. So we have built out some tracking systems, which are important, and being clear on what exactly the activities that we're doing. We talk about our goals publicly to the team, and then obviously privately. I meet with my team members every single week. They have 30 minutes with me. One-on-one
Okay.
via Zoom. And we have a dashboard, essentially. So they're going to commit to certain things that they're doing in their business, to work on their business, and then their numbers as well. And then we go through, you know, any client issues and things like that.
Are you tracking connects, appointments gone on, conversions?
We're getting better at connects and appointments gone on. We're not quite there to it's a lot to keep track of. So hopefully in 2021 we can add another admin, and then we'll get better at that. But we are tracking, you know, numbers, GCI, appointments going on.
So this is a weekly accountability with full visibility to the whole team.
Yes.
All right.
Janine, hopefully that answered your
We're
question.
an open book company like Keller Williams.
She would like to know if you'd like to, if you can share your format. So like your spreadsheet.
Sure.
Okay. Hallelujah said, "What's the one practical piece of advice you would give to a new agent?" Hold on. Went up a little bit. Sorry. Practical piece of advice for a new agent starting out, and thank you for sharing.
So I think the most important thing for a new agent is you do not have to know everything to start selling real estate. Like, you're never going to know everything. I still ask questions all the time. You know, my dad, who was, you know, 78 years old, still selling real estate, he would call me and ask me questions. Like, you are not going to know everything, so you just have to get into action. If you are paralyzed by not knowing enough, you're never going to get into action and actually start selling real estate. So,
Yep, good advice.
All right, Josh says, "What's the one thing that is specific to your success that sets you apart from every agent that tried and failed?"
Wow, good question.
So I distinctly remember when I had quit my other job, I was in the office and it was about 5:15 in the evening. And I started watching people leave the office. And I'm like, where are these people going? And then I realized I could go home too. Like, because I would actually work in the evenings at my prior job. I would go to work at 6 or 7 and I would run shows for a theater. And I realized like, oh, wait a minute, like the work day's over. And no, I mean, that's seriously what I thought, because I was so used to working till 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night. Like that's just what I did. And so I would kind of still do that. And my boyfriend now jokes with me a lot because he's like, what are your hobbies? What do you like to do? And I'm like, huh? Like
I like to work.
Yeah, I like to work. I like to walk around my neighborhood. Jamie sees me all the time. But like, it didn't really occur to me that like I could go home. I just kept working when other people didn't. So yeah. I'm not saying do that. Like,
and you were passionate about it. Though.
Yeah,
so
I wanted to be
something
doing
that you wanted to do.
Yeah, I'm not in any way saying work 16 hours a day. I'm just
You can
saying.
sleep in if you want, but we'll keep working. I don't know who iPhone is, but watching Erin as a new agent, she took every opportunity. That is repeated here big time. That was something Erin and I were talking about last night, is she just said yes to, if you need this sign put out somewhere, if you need this rental lead taken care of.
Is Angie McDaniel on here?
That's who it was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So Angie is property manager in our South Arlington office. And when I first met her, she would pump me with rental leads, right? Remember Angie? Hi. And she would just be like, hey, I got this new rental listing, and I can't, she has 5 kids, I don't know. And she was actually moving to Norfolk. And her husband was the commander in Naval Station Norfolk for a couple of years, and she had to leave the area. And so I would do pretty much everything she needed. Like, hey, can you go put this lockbox on this house? Or could you go put these signs out? Could you go do this? Could you pick up these papers? Whatever. And I didn't really have a reason to. Like, I mean, yes, I would get some money from the rental leads and stuff, but I wasn't like, I just said yes. And I did whatever Angie needed me to do, really. And we just had a good relationship. And I did that for a couple other agents that were retiring and things like that. Like, can you host an open house? Like, I had 2 listings of my own, and somebody asked me to do an open house. And I said, well, he's moving to South Carolina and he's retiring. Yeah, I'll do your open house and I'll fill my open house. And then it slowly became, well, I got these buyers, but I'm moving to North Carolina. Can you help these buyers? And so I would do that with people and just kind of be the yes person. I remember driving to Leesburg for Angie with a lockbox and like taking probably, 3 hours out of my day to go put a lockbox on a property. And like, I didn't flinch. I didn't ask why. I didn't ever say no. I just did it. And that afforded me a lot of opportunities with her because she was gone for 2 years. And she said, hey, can you co-list this house with me? And we ended up co-listing about 10 properties together. And that really got my listings going too. And I learned a lot with that. I could help her, and I ended up making a lot more money in the long run because I just said yes to the little tasks that weren't paid at the beginning. Right? Thank you, Angie.
And I just want to say, I mean, that's the biggest, it's so cool to see what you've accomplished because, we both kind of came to KW at the very beginning. And so to see how you always said yes, I mean, I'm a witness to that. So everybody listening to this, you need to really absorb what Erin has done here because she was always serving. She did the little thing, the thing that, a lot of agents are like, oh, I don't want to mess with that. If you new agents are on here or maybe agents that want to take your business to Erin's level, follow her example. She just like she said, she always did the little stuff. And I'm so proud of you, Erin. And I just have to say that it's so cool to see what you've done. So I'll be quiet now.
Thanks, Angie.
I have an investor that I work with probably about a dozen times a year. And her sister, actually it's a brother-sister team that they do investments. Their other sister is a licensed agent, but they hire me. And this was actually a $130,000 internet lead that came to me in 2014. And the website was like, I think it was Movoto, and it was a 35% referral fee if you close at closing, kind of like Prime Street or Op City. And it was a $130,000 short sale lead. I met the guy, ended up selling him this $130,000 property. I think we've done 40 properties together since.
40?
Yeah.
40?
Yep, I have a flip I'm listing in January for them. And they list with me every single time. They trust me, they price where I tell them to, they listen to me 100%. And what really gets me is their sister is an agent and used to be their agent, and they pay for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty crazy.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
Did I see Grace had a question? Or are you
So Ashley says, well, she says your tenacity is why you're so successful. And then she said, you spoke to hiring leverage. What did that look like for you? I know your first hire didn't work out, but what did that look like for you? And where were you at in your business to hire the first admin?
So I remember Josh and I were both like super buyer heavy. We would be doing our contracts at 10 o'clock at night in the office, sitting next to each other, both writing contracts, like, because that's the time we had to do it because we were out on the road all day. And I was like, Josh, okay, like, what if we just split an assistant 10 hours a week, like 5 hours for you, 5 hours for me? And like, honestly, we had the money, but like, we didn't want to give up the money. And so we're like, literally, we hired someone for 10 hours a week. Like, I was like, that's too much. Like, what are we going to do? How are we going to fill this person's time? And then we did that. And then I was like, oh, can you do this and this? And, started to get kind of things off of my plate, which allowed me to sell more and more and more.
Where were your units around that time?
I think I was doing about 40 units.
40 units?
Yeah. So,
and that's in line with what the model that we teach, right? Is when you get to about 30 to 36, you're really feeling the pain.
Yep.
But until then, you may not have the revenue needed to be able to add on that expense.
It's so funny because I was actually just talking to my assistant, Sky, who's been with me since 2016 now, yesterday. And our other assistant, Liz, was talking about her and Sky. They talk like a couple times a day, which is great. And Sky goes, yeah, I barely talk to Erin once a week, which is true. We have like an admin check-in on Monday, and then I see her on our team meeting, but she knows her role. She does I've been very lucky that she's been with me for 4 years now, and almost all hands off with her. And I barely talk to her, more than our 2 Zoom calls. Mm-hmm. So hiring the right leverage is really important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Did that answer Ashley's question?
I think so. Jabril wants to know, who just joined us yesterday, by the way.
Yeah, welcome, Jabril.
And his goal is to build a team like Erin's. So we were talking about that yesterday. We were actually talking about this. What do you think the one thing that keeps your team to stay and grow with you?
So I think it's being in a productive environment. So I think everyone on the team would agree that like being around other people that are producing is really important. And the opportunities that come with that. I mean, I would say about almost everyone on my team, 50% of their business comes from themselves and 50% of their business comes from the team. If we've run the numbers every which way, and it usually works out that way. And so what I tell people is like, listen, you're going to make the same amount of money on your own. Like, right? So like, or you're going to make, like, if you do your 50% of business that comes from you, you can go take that, be on your own and make that money. But then the team, you have the team environment, you have the leverage, you have the expense reduction, right? So like there's all the extra value that comes along with that in addition to the more units. But I think it's for me, and I think if I could speak for the team, you guys are on here. If you are on here, why do you stay with me? Well, who's on here?
I think what I also hear is some people just like to be part of something too, right? And that is more motivating and more fulfilling for them.
Well, real estate's a lonely business, right? You go and you work by yourself. You're your own boss. You decide when you get up in the morning and everything. And a lot of people come from team environments from other jobs. A lot of people in like customer service server jobs, like still servers are very kind of similar because you're still doing your own thing. It's reward-based income, but you still have a staff of the kitchen staff and all that kind of stuff. So it's it can be lonely, but when you work together, I think it's better.
Yeah, great point.
So Grace says, what does your lead gen look like now? Talking to neighbors about buying their house.
What is my lead gen? So I'll be honest, I don't sit in front of a phone for 3 hours a day. I don't. I do make calls. I do check in with my sphere. I do, I do go after certain listings. Like I'm very purposeful in who I talk to. But one thing that I've always been really good at like if I'm sitting at the closing table with a buyer and they talk about moving out of their apartment, I'm like, hey, can you introduce me to your landlord? They're either going to need to relist the house or they're going to sell it. I want to be introduced to the next part of the chain. Like, what can that one piece of business give me? Like, for example, I went on a for sale by owner appointment earlier this spring, and the house was tenant occupied. The guy was actually in California, and he was interviewing a bunch of agents, and he put me in touch with his tenant. Well, not one other agent asked the tenant where they were going or what they were doing. So I offered to help them find a rental. And she turns to me and she says, actually, I'm pre-approved for $500,000. And so
Even better.
I actually headed that off to Kanisha on my team and said she wants to go buy a house. She sold her a house the next day. They signed on new construction the next day for $500,000. I didn't get the listing, but I got another piece of business out of it.
Yep.
So I'm always looking for, like, on social media. I realize I shared this, so the link is public. I might have friends on here, but on social media, I'm messaging people that I know need to buy a house or know that might need to sell their house. How's it going? It's not about real estate. It's just a conversation. I'm getting into relationship with these people or staying in a relationship with these people that I know need to make a move.
Tell them about your pop by for 4th of July and you didn't want to stop.
Oh my gosh. So we did these pop buys. It was a Coke bottle. We're going to pop by with some like Cracker Jacks and something else. And I was delivering them, I think it was on 4th of July day. And there was a couple that I had not talked to for a while. They bought in 2015, I want to say. And I drove up to their house and they were in their yard. And I was like, I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to keep going. Like, I literally put my head down and was like, I hope they didn't see me. I'm not going to drop this off. I don't want to talk. Like, I was nervous. I was.
Just want to drop this off. Yeah.
So I did. I stopped and I ended up talking to them for a little while. They were happy to see me. I'm like, why do they want to talk to me? Anyway, so I have an appointment with them in January to buy their next house. Their budget's going to be about $1.5 million, and we're going to sell their house. And so, yeah, I have a consultation with them.
Do the things you don't
January
feel like
4th.
doing.
Yeah. Bumper sticker. Do
Right.
the things you don't feel like doing.
But would they
do
have
them anyway?
Would they have called me if I hadn't then reached out to them? I don't know. Like, I need to stay in contact with these people, right? So
That's how we lose people, right?
well, and you know what? To be completely fair, like going through those lists every time to put the addresses in and where we need to drop things off, I do find houses that people didn't sell with me. Like
Sure.
I find, and it hurts every time, but that's my fault. That's my fault for not staying in a relationship with them.
We have a mega agent in Tyson's who just went through the painful exercise of going through their database really with a fine-tooth comb.
Exactly.
They found 4 lost pieces of
Yes.
business within the first hour.
It hurts.
And I was like, ugh,
Yeah.
nothing worse than that. Okay, what else do we have?
I don't know if I missed any question. Oh,
Did Michael
Anna wants
say
to know what CRM do you use?
Who?
Anna, she's a new
okay.
capper in our office. now,
So we're in Command. Yeah, we're using Command.
Exclusively?
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah. We have some other like tracking systems that we've built out, but we are in Command. It doesn't do everything we want it to do right now, but we're in Command.
What were you using before Command?
Oh god, EDge.
That was our old included
We were using
service.
EDge, we were using like HubSpot, we had tried Lion Desk at one point. We had
You were using some Gmail products too, right? Like
we use Folio for
Folio.
transaction management.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's free,
Folio
right?
is easy to use, works. Yeah.
Okay.
It was free, it's paid now.
okay.
Yeah.
So Grace is asking, what system do you have to follow with your Sphere and past clients?
Yeah, so we were like, I would say that the events is a big one. And then like there's smart plans and Command that tell you when you need to talk to people and kind of how
Is
often.
there a specific smart plan that you use right now? Because I know there's a bunch of them in there.
I don't know. You have
Like,
to-
are your people
you have to
on,
ask
like-
my admin.
Are your people on like a true 36 touch?
The next interviews with Liz.
Yeah, the next interviews with my
That's what
admin
happens.
staff.
That's the downside of this. Okay. So
But so we've always done like holiday cards, like emails that go out for that. We're not like a huge like, here's our new piece of business email.
The answer is yes, 36 touch, Grace. She's implementing that, but her admin leverages that. for her.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
in more, it sounds like in more humanistic ways, like
And then we
more
have-
like birthday.
She'll go physically do the pop by, but it's not
Yeah.
set up by her at all.
Got it.
Right. So like our admin's setting up everything. They're making the Popeyes. They're giving the list and everything, and then I'll just go drop them off, or maybe my runner will, depending on where they are or whatever. And then you know, we do have a bi-weekly newsletter as well.
Bi-weekly, yeah. So you're at least at 36.
Yeah.
with all that.
Which is through home actions, right?
Home actions, yeah.
What is Kelly saying?
Monthly neighborhood smart plan once people close on their new house.
Thanks, Kelly.
Kelly's awesome with systems on my team too. She's not an admin.
Kelly is
she's
amazing.
pretty awesome. So.
Archie wants to know what is your ultimate goal in real estate, and where do you want to be in 5 years?
Oh gosh. Okay. So ultimate goal in real estate. I mean, these are definitely things I'm going to start trying to figure out. I do obviously love working with buyers and sellers, but I also am really passionate about the teaching and the coaching part of it. So I think, you know, my ultimate goal right now is to allow the people that are in my world to have the big life that I have. That's really my goal. And then what was the second part?
Where do you want to be in 5 years?
Where was
25.
Well, you know, honestly, this is tough for me too. Like my ex-husband, I would ask him this and he would say, "What's wrong with where we're at right now?" And I'm like, what? Like, how could you be okay with what you have now? So, I mean, there's some income goals and financial goals I want to hit. And I want to buy at least one property every single year. That's one of the goals of mine. I have but how old am I?
38.
38. So I think my kind of mid-term goal is like maybe by like 50, I'll be out of production and have passive income at that point.
I think you want your passive income to equate to your
passive income
active
to equate to active income. And that's one thing about Keller Williams is there's so many different streams of income that we are trained on, or we can have, not just Keller Williams, but just in real estate. There's so many other ways to make money instead of just the one transaction. So just kind of that multiplies, right, over time.
Yeah, and one of the common models that we apply with people kind of like of Erin's level, or a lot of the ALCs in the offices, is how can you benefit financially in multiple ways from doing exactly what you're already doing? And that's where some of these title opportunities, insurance, market center ownership, which is not common across the Keller Williams platform even. So it's a very unique opportunity. So it's cool.
Yeah.
So one more, sorry. Jabril is saying, what is the one thing you would do differently that would do starting a team based on you? Like, what would you do differently in starting your team based on what you know now?
I would talk to more people about, so even though the first team I was on wasn't the best experience for me, it did teach me about how a team operates. So I'm going to say something that's sort of true, but like almost, I think that every new agent should join a team in a way. I mean, I don't want to say
know how to function as an agent.
Yeah. I mean, like joining a team early on, like even though I didn't want to do it, it just made me learn and grow faster. I was around production. I was around deals. I was around things. And it just kind of like ramped up what I could do. And I couldn't do that on my own. And even if you don't want to be on a team, just grab people that are doing the same thing you are, or a step ahead, right? So like just be around more people that are doing more things than you. And Josh and I have a goal this year to get with people that are doing, much better than we are. Like, we're constantly trying to find or seek out people that are doing things more than what we're doing. And so, yeah. Does that answer the question?
I think so.
Okay.
Any other last minute things?
Where are some of my team members? You guys are on here. Kelly, where'd you go?
I saw Kelly, I saw Kristen. As you guys are thinking about that and popping on, make sure you give your recommendations for who else you want to hear from in our world for the future Meet the Mega events. It's always going to be on the third Tuesday of the month. In January, we're featuring Yanni from our Tyson's office with the DMV team. They do a ton of YouTube videos, social media. They have a really unique way of conducting business. And so we want you to hear from them. And then we've got a couple other people lined up as well. So continue to get us those nominations. And does anyone have any last minute questions or anything they want to say? All right, as this is only our second one, we do appreciate the feedback. So if it's too long, too short, if you rather different questions, we are tailoring it somewhat specifically to the person. Kelly, is anyone saying anything that we need to?
No, they're just appreciative of you and thank you for your time. And they learned a lot.
Excellent. Well, yes, Erin, thank you
And
so
it's
much.
inspirational.
You're welcome.
For your time and sharing your story and your journey and the bumps and the successes and the lessons learned and the aha moments with our team. This is what we do. Super proud of you. Grateful.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.